happy Mother's Day to all of you. Doing this, of course, it's very stressful. It's very high anxiety. And it just doesn't really matter how many of you say, it's going to be great. It's still very stressful and it's very high anxiety. But the thing I was thinking is that, I really love you guys. And I really love this church. And I love the diversity of this church. I love all the different ages. I love all the different ethnicity. I won't even try it. Anyway, I love all the people groups. I love all the... I know when to back out. I love all the different stories that make up your lives. And it's just, to me, it's one of the greatest gifts to be a part of this church. And just to do life together. And to be family. And so today, I wouldn't even say I'm bringing you a sermon. I would say it's more of a encouraging word, and I'm just bringing maybe some pearls that God has given me along the way and is still giving me in this journey that might help you. I don't have all the talent that Dale has to do his messages. So I have to tell you, if you try to follow your outline, you will be very frustrated. So it's really just a piece of paper if you want to jot something down, But just to give you a heads up on that one. So today, this is the first in a series of messages that Dale plans on continuing after today. And it's called Emotionally Spiritual, did I say that wrong? Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And my verses for today are from the Psalms. Dale's going to be speaking from the Psalms as well. And you guys know that this world that we live in today, it's a very drama-driven world. There is just, you guys get it. There is just so much drama. And if we don't learn how to get a handle on our emotions and on our feelings, they'll get a handle on us. And emotions and feelings, they can really wreck your life, They can take you nowhere really quick. And so Dale's he's going to be following up the messages with that. And mine today is from Psalm 23. And I titled it, Mountains, Meadows, and Valleys, Oh My. and it sounds kind of silly and simple, but you guys know that some of the valleys are really, oh my. Some of them really do rock your world. And we will focus mostly on valleys today. But anyway, with Psalm 23, it's a book in Psalms. And if you're familiar with it at all, which most of you are, you might even be saying, why in the world am I having to listen to another message on Psalm 23? Because it's a very used scripture. And usually you hear it at funerals, or you hear it if somebody is dying, or you hear it in a really distressing place, right? But I had an encounter with Psalm 23 not terribly long ago that was bursting with life. And that's how this small, encouraging word came together, okay? One of the things I have to tell you is Dale told me I had to add this part to the message. And you'll know it's Dale because it's not how my brain thinks. And so he said to tell you that scholars believe that, right? So Psalms is written by David, and scholars believe when David wrote this psalm, Psalm 23, that he was running from his son. He was hightailing it because his son wanted his throne, and he wanted his power and his position and his gifts, and he wanted it, and so he was after his dad to kill him. And so David was running for his life. Maybe some of you have had a problem like that where you're just running for your life. And so David found himself in probably some peculiar landscape or terrain. And maybe it occurred to him, as he is in some rocky places or deep, dark caves, it may have occurred to him of his younger days when he was a shepherd and he was shepherding sheep. And the thought came is, the Lord is my shepherd. And so that's how this psalm was written, when he was running for his life in some very dark places. He was a shepherd who cared tenderly for his sheep, and he knew how to get them out of some very difficult predicaments, and some very dark places. And so it occurred to him, oh, God is that shepherd to me. And so he wrote Psalm 23. So that's how this whole thing came about, okay? So we're going to read it really quick. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So, Psalm 23, if you could see it, two things. First, it's a picture of how we're going to walk through our valleys of life, our very dark moments. And then it's an invitation. Consider yourself invited by the King today, handing you an invitation of how you're going to walk through your dark, dark valleys. So it's a picture and it's an invitation. Have you guys ever known someone, they've been through a hard life. They've had a lot of bad things happen to them, a lot of really unfair things that happen. They walk out of those circumstances and they have a story to tell. And their story is, I am so blessed. I love God. God is so good. And then you meet another person who has the same set of stories, really sad, unfair, disappointing stories, and they never walk out of it. And they become angry, and they become bitter, and they're hateful, and they're resentful, and they're filled with blame. You guys all know someone like that. On both sides, I'd be willing to bet, right? My daddy, he's a remarkable man. And I'd have to say that he's been through a lot of really sad, sad stories and a lot of unfair stories. And, most of you guys know, I grew up with two siblings that had deep addictions. And there was 4 siblings total. And any of you who are familiar with addictions, you know that there's a whole lot of drama in between, right? There is just so much drama. And so my house was filled with a lot of drama growing up as a kid. And my daddy, he always hoped. He and my mom, they always hoped. And they always tried. And they always believed. And then they died. And that was that. And really sad, sad deaths. And then, my mom, she gets this rare form of cancer. Has any of you ever been a victim of rare? Like, it's not supposed to happen to you? This is so rare, the doctors will say, this is so rare, we can't even believe it. Has any of you guys ever had rare happen? It's an easy excuse to become a victim when rare is put on your life. So my mom gets this rare form of cancer, and her life is short-circuited. So if you talk to my daddy today, he's 82, and he still works full-time, and he drives, and he calls me Hun all the time. And all he ever says is, Hun, I am so blessed. And, he'll start to just count his blessings. And your mind kind of tilts because you know all the things that he's been through. And it's not common to walk out of stories like that and count your blessings. You know, it means he's made some pretty deliberate choices to walk out of that and count his blessings. He even takes, me and Dale and my brother and his wife and my auntie, we all go to Disneyland once a year, and he pays for it. And I can't tell you how much fun it is. He has the funnest time with us on all these crazy roller coasters, and we go morning to midnight, and he just is so blessed. That's the story. I am so blessed. And anyway, it just got me thinking a lot about this, what I'm talking about today, is that all of us have an opportunity to walk through life and walk through our stories. All of us have an invitation how it's going to turn out, all of us. And it really is in our lap how it's going to turn out. And so these are just some pearls. So first of all, I was thinking, because Psalm 23, it talks about the valleys. I was thinking about all the different terrains of life. And so first I was thinking, well, there's the mountains. And I'm so grateful we have mountains, right? Mountains are exhilarating. It's beautiful. Great perspective, filled with hope and experiences. Some of you might be in a valley that you forgot you ever had a mountaintop experience. Or some of you might say, I'm too old to remember I had a mountaintop experience. But I promise you can dial it up. All of us have had a mountaintop experience, and we need those, right? We've got to have those. And then you have the meadows. And the meadows, I don't know, I think of a meadow as just so pretty, and I always think of lots of wildflowers. But then, I also thought of Bambi in the meadow. And I thought, there is dangers in the meadow, right? And but the meadow, we're smart. We know there's dangers, and so we're smart. And we're going to, there's possibilities in the meadow. So our meadows, there's possibilities, there's hopes, and we're smart. And we're going to try to avoid those dangers. And then there's the rocky roads. The rocky roads, those are the disappointments, the broken promises, questions of faith, failure. Rocky roads, there's all sizes of rocks, And some of the rocky roads are really hard. And you might sprain an ankle, you might break a leg, but you're going to keep going forward, It's a rocky road. We can do this. We've done this, right? Then there's the sandy ground. The sandy ground is where you get stuck. The sandy ground it's filled with regret, and blame, and shame. It's got all those questions. Why didn't I? I should have. Who did? Why did I? Over and over, all those questions, right? That's the sandy ground. You just get stuck. And then there's the valley. This is where your world is rocked. This is where your world is shattered. In the valley, it's a place of deep, deep grief and loss. Something was taken away. It could have been a reputation. It could have been a loss of health. People, their health, it's just like that. Just taken away. Could be a child messes up big time. A spouse walks out. A life is lost. Failure, regret. The valley is why it's just where it's just dark, and there's shadows, and it's creepy, and there's horrible images, and there's voices that never stop. That's your valley. And so you might say, Sharon, why in the world are you talking about something like that today? It's Mother's Day. It's supposed to be a happy day. All the moms should be getting a bouquet of pink flowers. Why are we doing this? Why are we talking about the valleys, right? But truly, this is a message of hope, because I know the valleys are where a lot of us live. And Psalm 23, it is a lifeline. And it's inviting us to do life different. And it's an invitation to hope again. So to me, this message, it's not one bouquet of pink flowers, it's 5. It's just bursting with color and life and bouquets. And, this is a message that it's more than comforting out here. It's comforting to the deepest part of your soul. And so that's why we're talking about it. So one of the questions is, when I'm going through this valley, will it ever end? Does my story have to stay here? How is it ever going to end? And Saul, he is a perfect example of someone who never walked out of his valley. Saul got angry, he got resentful, and Saul died. He never walked out of his sad story. David, on the other hand, did. David is an expert at distress and failure. He's an expert at it. And he walked out of his sad story. David wrote Psalm 23. He walked out of his sad story. It was a different ending. And so, yes, there is hope that we could walk out of this sad story. There's 3 things that we have to do to walk out of our sad story. And that is our choices, and it's our prayers, and it's our promises. I have to tell you, not long ago, a lot of you guys were praying that 2 of my grandbabies have malaria. And, they're the ones that live in Zambia, and Heidi is actually here visiting for Mother's Day. Which I have to tell you, Heidi would tell you that she is the chief in unbrave, if that's a word. But she flew all the way here from Zambia by herself, which is a really big deal, because you have to do, you go through a lot of stuff, which I don't even know what all you go through, but I know you go through a lot of stuff. And you're over the ocean for a really long time. So for those of you that don't like to be over the ocean for a really long time, it's a brave thing. So anyway, so 2 of my grandbabies, Heidi's boys, had malaria. 1 was gravely ill. And, when I got the news, the first one, the one that was gravely ill, was put in a clinic. Where Heidi and Chris live, it's not even like I could trust in doctors. They don't even have these great medical facilities that you say they're getting amazing care. It's a clinic where they don't even give IV fluids. And so the little 6-year-old is just grave. And then right after that, a few hours later, it's the brother that goes in. And I remember the feelings that just came to my soul. It just shatters you. And first of all, it was just so much fear, and I'm so far away. I couldn't even get to her fast enough if I had to. And it's just all encompassing. And then the next feeling that came to me, I was just mad. And you know how feelings are? They just don't have to really make sense. And if somebody asked me who I was mad at, I would probably say Dale. It just doesn't have to make a lot of sense, your feelings, right? I was just mad. And so, and then, I truly did not even know what to pray. Sometimes your valleys just feel so deep and dark that you don't even have words to pray. And so there's a song I have on my phone, and it turned out to be my lifeline in my prayer. Guys, don't hesitate to pray songs, because they're beautiful prayers. And this song was, I love the Lord. He heard my voice. He heard my cry when I call for mercy. And then it says, for he is good. And so what I did, I honestly had no prayers. It was just too dark for me to make up my own prayers. So I just had my phone, and I prayed that song all the time. It had to speak to my fears and to my anger. It just had to speak to it. Because if I let my fear and my angers control me, I was going nowhere, And you create scenarios. You know how that goes? You start to create all kinds of drama, right? The drama gets bigger and bigger. And so I remember through the night I just put my phone under my pillow, and every hour I played that song. And it just spoke to my fears. It spoke to my anger. And the thing that's so interesting is every time I've been in a valley, regardless of the outcome, when God shows up, it all changes. The presence of God changes every valley, no matter the outcome. And he always speaks before the outcome. You know, it's just a strange thing. It seems like he always speaks before the outcome. So anyway, that had a good outcome. Those boys, thankfully, recovered, you know. So the valley of the shadow of death, I just want to give you some choices, because that's the first thing that's going to help us in our valley. It's our choices. And our choices are what's natural, and then our choices are what are supernatural. And so our natural choices, I have to tell you, it's our first reaction. And our natural choices, it is humanity. So I'm not saying you're not going to feel this, because you are going to feel these things. The most important thing you do is, once you do this, recognize it and switch directions, okay? Because these choices, they'll take you down a path that you can't afford to go. They lead to destruction. So one of our natural choices is, when something happens that's bad or hurts, we naturally want to shake our fist at God. Don't we? Don't you guys know people who have done that? Where were you, God? You don't care. You left us. You say you're a caring God. You don't care one bit. And we shake our fist at God. That's a natural reaction, okay? Maybe some of you guys recognize yourself in that. Or you blame and you point fingers. Or maybe a natural reaction for you is anger, and you go off in a rage. Or maybe you lie or deceive. Or maybe you get really selfish. It's all about me and my pain and how I feel and what I think, and I have no time to care about anyone else, and it just is all about me. You've known people, probably, who disown their loved one. They just cut them off. You did that to me? Not to worry. I'll never talk to you again. You've seen fathers do it to daughters. I've seen mothers do it to sons. You know, you don't exist. You just cut them off. Just cut an ear. Sisters to sisters, absolutely. Self-pity, this one's my go-to. And I've told you guys this before. It's my first reaction. The song I sing in the valley is a country western song. It's poor, poor, pitiful me. That's what I sing in the valley. But I'm getting a little quicker at recognizing it. It used to take me longer to recognize it. I'm getting a little quicker at recognizing it. Then there's depression, there's hopelessness, there's guilt and shame. All those things are that's just your humanity. That's what comes natural. When life hurts, that's what we go to. But I'll tell you what, if you go there and you stay there, that's the biggie, is if you stay there, it's guaranteed that your hurts will hurt others. Guaranteed. So, we've got to do something that's not natural. It's got to be supernatural, right? It's got to be supernatural. When my daughter, she was going through, just not long ago, you know, she's diagnosed with this rare disease, and she was in Dallas. And they were going to determine if she has the worst case of this rare disease. And I remember being in my kitchen and just, you know, feeling really afraid and feeling really scared and probably feeling mad. That could be one of my go-tos. And, you know, just cooking. And this piece of the psalm came to my heart. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And I thought right away, you know what? I am in a shadow. This is a valley. This is what we're walking through as a family. We're in the valley of the shadow of death. Now, was it going to be unto death? Probably not. But we're in the valley of the shadow of death. And I've picked up fear, and I've picked up anger, and I've picked up worry, and I've picked up these feelings, and I'm carrying them in my valley, right? And when this little piece came to me, so I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, instantly I had a picture of Jesus putting out his hand. And he was bidding me to take it, to clasp his hand. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. Here I have anger, and I have fear, and I have worry, and so I don't really have a free hand, right? So to take his hand meant I had to let go of something, But the minute I took his hand, it was like, and it was just here, it was just at the hands is where there was light. It was just right here. And I knew as long as I held his hand that he was leading me, and that was the light. It was like our flashlight in this very dark place. That was our flashlight. If I let go, no light. Hold on, here's light. Okay, we're going to go forward, But I had to drop all these other things that came natural. So the supernatural is the choices. These are the things that just do not come natural. The supernatural, I have to tell you, you can tell it, the difference between the natural and the supernatural is because there's no drama in the supernatural. There's no drama, okay? So the supernatural is God cannot lie. The supernatural is God will never change his mind about me. He's not going to love me today and hate me tomorrow. That's drama. He's not going to do that. He'll never change his mind about me. He will always love me. Always. He is always good. No matter what it feels like, he is always good. His mercies are new and fresh every day. It doesn't matter what it feels like. Every day. Today, I am one step closer to my heavenly home where there's no more pain. That'll never change. My story has so much more to be written with his ink. This is not the end of my life. There's more to my story. It's not over. It's not over, guys. If you have a deep sorrow and you're feeling it's over, it's not over. God has so much more to write of your story. And the other thing is that I will hope again. I will. If I hold his hand and come through this, I will hope again. So it's our choices. It's our prayers. Our prayers, when you're in the valley, you need to cry. And you need to feel. And you need to cry, and you need to cry, and you need to cry. And you need to feel. And God can handle hearing how you feel. He really can. Just don't stay there. Let your tears tell your sad story who God is. Because your tears are telling a story. Let them tell your story who God is. Right? And then faith will rise. As you do that, faith will start to rise in your heart. Oh, though I'm in this valley, I will hope again. There is more to my story, and faith will rise. And then you've got to remember his promises. His promises, his rod, it protects you. Remember he talks about the rod and the staff? His rod protects you. It's going to protect you from the wolves and the bears. So many times when you're in the valley, you might think the wolves and the bears are people. Do any of your wolves and bears look like people? I bet you've got lots of wolves looking at you. But guess what? People are never your enemy. You have to remember that. They might act like it, they might feel like it, but people are never, ever your enemy. And that's why God can protect you, because he knows who your enemy is. People are not your enemy. And God can protect you. His staff will guide you. Let his staff lead you through your valley. He prepares a table before your enemies. Your enemies, what are your enemies? It's the anger, it's the fear, it's the rage. Those are all your enemies. And he's preparing a table for me? Wow, what peace. He's fighting this battle, right? He anoints my head with oil. Some of you guys are just battle weary. You've just been in a really sad, dark valley, and you need Jesus just to wipe your head and wipe your brow, and you need him just to tell you it's going to be okay, that he's not going to leave you. Your no drama God is not going anywhere. He's not going to walk out on you. You will hope again. I promise you will hope again. If you take his hand, you will hope again. And one of the biggest things, is that this isn't the end of the story. Sad is the person that puts all their eggs in a basket for this life. Like this life is it. This is everything that matters. And if you put all your eggs in this basket, you will end up very disappointed, because life does take you somewhere, right? And if you're just living as this is it, there really is no hope for you. But if you are living in light of eternity, that this is just this small of your story, this is just it. Life is just like this. You guys know it goes so fast. It's just like this. And if you live life in light of eternity, you will see your baby again, and you will see your sister again, and you will see your loved ones again. And this is not the end of the story. The valley is just a piece of the journey. It's just a piece of the journey. I think that our greatest need for today is that we would know how very precious we are to God, how much he loves you, and how he has not walked out on you. And when you called, he heard. It did not fall to the ground. Those prayers did not fall to the ground. And when you cried, he caught those tears. And God wants us to know how precious we are to him and how much he loves us.